Mark, let's just start off by reflecting on the victory over Hunslet. Pretty emphatic scoreline in the end, but it was definitely a game of two halves.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think we were ever in danger of losing the game, but I thought we gifted Hunslet far too much easy territory in that first half, and they're a dangerous team. If you let them attack your line, as we found out. So it was fair to say that we fixed that up, and I thought the second half probably as clinical and ruthless as we've been so far this year. So lots of positives from it, lots to build on, but at the same time, we're not going to get carried away without sounding disrespectful. It's going to be a different sort of challenge this week, so it's all eyes on Sunday now.
Yeah, at the half-time it's 22-8, but you scored those 36 unanswered points to kind of ease to victory in the end. You must have been pleased, especially with that ruthless kind of second half performance in terms of like your scoring. Yeah,
definitely. I think I don't think we're a million miles off in the first half, and we're still throwing some nice rugby there. As I say, it was just a few too many unforced errors. Just a little bit of I'll call it sloppiness, but lacks concentration, whatever you want to call it. So that's what we went about chasing, fixing up was that. And as I said, we got away with it on Sunday. We won't be able to afford to serve up that sort of sloppiness come Sunday, because we'll get punished a lot harder.
How impressed were you with the back three? And I know you keep mentioning you can only play what's in front of you, and Hunslet are a side that are bottom of the table at the moment. But 4 tries from Ben Jones-Bishop and a brace from Toa Mataafa on debut, and then also on the other side a brace from Scott Galliano as well. Yeah,
definitely. It's pleasing to see that we're getting some strike throughout the field. We work hard on training on that, and I think the most pleasing thing for me is how everyone's just going about the business. There's no egos, it's very selfless, everyone's doing the job for a team, and as I say, sometimes defensively there's a lot of players doing a lot of unselfish acts that's just holding a defender up, fixing someone up, that's allowing the people to finish them opportunities off, and long may it continue. We've just got to make sure we keep nice and grounded and keep chasing it, because I still think there's a lot more in us.
Yeah, there were obviously the headline grabbers, but I wanted to mention the likes of Olifield, Jack Martin, Geordie Thompson, Akumatai as well, in that forward kind of pack, just kind of giving you that impetus, that kind of go forward. And while they won't grab the headlines, kind of, I guess, unsung heroes in terms of that performance as well.
Yeah, we put a lot of work into certain factors based off them people, and I thought they all had top games again. I thought Akuma is probably the best game we've seen of him this year. So I think that week off did him the world of good, and as I said, we're ticking along nicely. I still think there's a few more gears in us, a bit more improvement, and we're relishing coming up against another team that can do exactly the same to us on Sunday. So it should be a really good cup semi-final.
And I know obviously we're looking ahead to the 1895 Cup semi-final this weekend, but I just wanted to ask you, that win over Hunslet obviously moves you into the top 5 after 10 games. I know some teams still have a game in hand, but it's really tight, that kind of top 6, just separated by kind of 2 points. Shows just how competitive the championship is this season.
Yeah, 100%. And if you break it up roughly, we're coming up to that halfway point soon, aren't we? And I've always said you want to be there or thereabouts, and then the runnings the second half of the year, making sure you're hopefully getting that consistency about you. You know your combos, you know your teams, you get a bit of luck on the injury front, etc. So we're relatively happy with how we sat in the championship now. We're disappointed obviously to lose them first 3, in the manner how we lost a couple of them. It took a few games to kind of get us points difference more how we wanted it, which could also be a factor with the reason you've said with how tight it is. But like anything, it's important just to stay nice and level. Don't look too far in front. Just keep it one game at a time, and that way rest will take care of itself, won't it?
Yeah. You mentioned the points difference there, second best points difference at the moment in the league, 140 points plus. Shows how dominant you've been when you face those teams in the bottom half of the table. You've really kind of put them to the sword.
Yeah, and that's what you've got to do. When your foot on the throat, sometimes you've got to keep it there, haven't you? And listen, I've been on end of score lines on the other end of it too, and it's not nice. When you're coming up against a team that's dominant and they're being clinical, it's not a nice place to be. And normally it's them teams that go on and get into finals or get into playoffs and things like not getting too complacent, and if we do find us nosing in front, being clinical in finishing that off.
So looking at your team news, did everyone come through the Hunslet game okay? Have you got any concerns?
No, everyone touch wood seems to have got through all right. Obviously we'd rotated 1 or 2 as well, so they're back in the contention. So unless we get any injuries in training, it should be pretty much as we were before Hunslet to choose from.
Yeah, just looking at the players you decided to rest and rotate. Ate Hingano, obviously the headline with that shoulder knock, injury, stinger, however you want to describe it. But has he recovered, or does he require a bit more rest? Or
No, Ate were good to go on Sunday. He were good to go. It was more me just being a little bit more cautious, just giving it that week to settle down. But he was filthy. He wasn't playing Sunday, if I'm honest with you. As you can imagine, he wanted in on the action. So Ate will be back in contention. I think Macca does a cracking job when we throw him out there as well. And it also allowed me to play Cookie and Jax. And then, as I said, I thought Taylor were unlucky not to get a game. And that's the depth we've got in them positions at the moment. And long may that continue, because I also know that there'll be other times when we probably don't have that luxury.
Yeah, we spoke about Jax O'Neill last week and getting that next opportunity with a bit of rotation. How did he kind of go for you? Yeah,
he looked more like Jax, before his break that he's had from the game. He gets after it. His passing service from 9's lovely. He's starting to get that touch back, that deception. He's a little mongrel in defence too. He goes hunting people. So yeah, he showed a lot of signs of the Jax O'Neill that we know.
Yeah, you also rested Joe Brown, so you could, I guess, have a look at Toamata Afa against obviously Hunslet opposition. Could he come back into contention for Bradford, or
Joe Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, with Ben Jones Bishop cup tied, your obvious replacement there would be Brownlee jumping in on that right wing. So that'd be the plan if everything goes in training how we want and that. So and then if everyone stays fit, the week after with Bish being available too, that's when the fun would start in terms of selection.
Yeah. And just finally on the selection, Connor Bailey, another change that you decided to make as well?
Yeah, Fieldy's been in great form and he's been playing out of position, so I wanted to give him a run in his preferred position, and it were a good opportunity to freshen Connor up. So really happy with how Fieldy's going, really happy with how Connor's going. So you never know, we might leave Fieldy out there. We might put Connor back yet. We'll see how we're feeling and go with that on Sunday.
Yeah, because obviously since you've been at the club, Holyfield has played a number of different positions. He's played that second row, he's played in the pack, he's played at centre as well. What do you think his best position is? Or is he a player that thrives on being a utility player?
No, I mean it's handy to have, but I think he'll want to specialise. I think long term he'll see himself in the pack, but he's also enjoying playing centre at the moment. I think he's still got a lot of growing to do. I think probably another year or two he'll be an out-and-out pack player, but while we can utilise him out wide as well, can't we? So I don't think that'll stay around forever. So just enjoying coaching Ollie. He's a champion lad. He'll play wherever you want him to, and he just wants to be in the team. And we've got that luxury, as I said, at the moment. We're a fully fit squad. You've got Joe Law that's obviously nice and agile and can get a break that way, and then you've got Fieldy, who's a little bit more direct. With his carries, as you'd expect, with a back rower. So yeah, it's just a case of doing what's right for the team on whatever week it is at this moment in time.
With Holyfield as well, he knows how to finish, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Well, so does Joe. To be fair, so does Joe. They both do. So it's a welcome selection headache, and both top kids with good futures in the game, in my opinion. And there's some pretty tough calls to make this week in that sense.
Yeah, so looking at the 1895 Cup semi-final, you've put off, I guess, talking about it for a couple of weeks while you focused on the Championship, but now it's here. How do you look at that matchup?
Yeah, there's the obvious prize at the end of it for everyone. You'd have to be an idiot not to speak about that, but I think it's just important to play the game and not the occasion. It's a knockout game, 80 minutes of rugby, and we'll be just focusing on that. We know what comes after that, but it's pointless thinking about that at this moment in time. So Bradford are in a rich vein of form themselves. I think they're 6 unbeaten at the moment, so we're looking forward to locking arms with them. And may the best team win.
a big opportunity for players to reach Wembley, isn't it? Because it doesn't come around too often in a player or a coach's career, really. But do the lads need any extra motivation for that, or have they been knocking at your door saying, I want in the team? Or?
Yeah, I'd be worried if they did, put it that way. But no, you know, these are the sort of games you want to be involved in. You know, we're looking forward to it. I know Bradford will be looking forward to it as well. So, as I said, we're just focusing on nailing this week, getting us prep right. You know, hopefully getting through injury free, and then you know, everyone's excited to get out there on Sunday. And as I said, may the best team win. You know, we know we're coming up against another good team, and that's kind of what you want to do as a coach and a player, is lock arms with things that are going to challenge you and test you, and we'll definitely get that on Sunday.
Yeah. Does this feel like you've almost been building to this sort of big test? The teams that you've been playing recently have been, the last 5 games have been teams in the bottom half of the table, but it seems like certainly you've been, I guess, fine-tuning and trying to build to a crescendo for this game?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a mixture this year. I mean, we've obviously played Halifax, Toulouse, Barrow, etc. So, you know, we've been playing teams that are above us as well. But it's just, as I've said all along, focusing on yourself. It's fair to say I still think we've got gears in us, and we're not where we want to be. But I'd also be worried if we're where we want to be right now. You know, I think there's a lot of building still in us, and we've just been focusing on that every week. Just looking at what areas we're happy with, what areas we feel we need to improve on. No one's getting carried away with themselves, staying nice and grounded, and we'll just take it exactly the same there. What can we improve in ourselves before we worry about an opposition? And at the moment, there's still a hell of a lot of improvement in us, so that's literally what we're going after. And I know it sounds probably too simple and basic for some, but for me that's what works. It's bringing the best version of yourself, and you know, not worrying too much about who you're playing and where you can outwit them. It's, you know, let them worry about you if they want to go about that. We just want to bring the best version of what we can do forward.
Yeah. What have you made to Bradford under head coach Brian Noble, because he's back at the club for a second spell?
Yeah, listen, no one knows Bradford better than Brian, do they? You know, he was there with the glory years and all that. So yeah, I think they're a really good team. You know, obviously one of the big spenders in the league this year. So it's fair to say they're probably similar to us. A few games where they feel they should have won that they've not, but then they've become really dominant over this last 6-week period. So we're under no illusions. We'll be going in, you know, in many eyes as underdogs, which we're fine with. And as I say, we're just focusing on ourselves and bringing the best version of what we can do.
Having said that, underdog tag, Bradford don't tend to travel too well here to the LNER Community Stadium over the years. Yeah. They've not had the best record here, and I guess with what you've seen over the last couple of days with Hull KR Catalan being here and the stadium being packed out, you'll be hoping that you'll get a similar sort of turnout from the York fans. Yeah,
I mean, firstly, 2 questions there in there. I don't believe in all that historical stuff, because I think it's just a mental lag for people, that as such. I think you've got to live in the here and now, haven't you, and what's in front of you. The past's irrelevant. So yeah, we haven't been looking into that. I think it'll be a cracking atmosphere. Bradford always travel well, though. They're probably one of the best supporter clubs in the league. Very noisy fans, not as noisy as ours though, so I know York fans will get out there too, so I'm sure them two will be going at each other, and our job is just to make sure that we deliver on the field and give our fans something to cheer about. So it's got all the makings to be a real cracking atmosphere, you know, an high quality game, and we've just got to make sure that you know, we focus on what we're paid to do, which is obviously coach and play rugby league.
Yeah, and obviously coming up against a former York Knight in Ronan Michael, who so far this year has sort of stood out as one of Bradford's best prop forwards since making that move over the winter. Is he one of the players that you have to kind of keep quiet in I guess, making territory and you know, making an impact as well, because he's a direct runner? Yeah,
there's a few of them. You know, Ronan's a top kid, top player. You know, I was sorry to see him go, if I'm honest with you, but obviously he had his own reasons for that. But yeah, I think Bradford's got some cracking players, but so have we. You know, I love that sort of rivalry in the competitions and things like that. So it'll be a good match-up, our pack versus their pack. And as I've said all along, in knockout rugby, it's whoever can nail it for that 80 minutes. So yeah, as I said, you could look through the team and there's battles that you'd be looking forward to throughout. And You can make arguments 2 and 4, can't you? You know, depending on which side of the fence you sit. So I'm really looking forward to that. And as I say, if you're a neutral fan, that's kind of what you want to tune in and watch, isn't it? So really looking forward to it.
I just want to get your thoughts on this Bradford Bulls team. Obviously, they've done very well so far this season. It's one of the bigger clubs in the Championship. What sort of threats do you think that they can pose your side this weekend?
No, I've just said previously there. Yeah, listen, these are sort of games that I suppose your neutral fan wants to tune in and go. Bradford, you know, a very good team with good players in, very well coached. You know, and there's good matchups throughout the teams, aren't there? I mean, you could make arguments from 1 to 17. You know, that people will be enjoying seeing who can get the better on that. And I think it's about whoever nails the performance for that 80 minutes. I think you'd like to think both teams will be there or thereabouts. You know, come the end of the year and. You know we're going to be in for a test. We're looking forward to it. I'm sure Bradford are looking forward to it too. So may the best team win on the day.
Yeah, I don't know how much it sort of comes into effect, but with Brian Noble, their coach, one of the most experienced coaches in rugby league, does that have an effect, having that level of experience?
I don't know, because I ain't got that experience, if I'm honest with you. But you know, Brian were there in the glory years for Bradford, wasn't he? Well respected by myself and people throughout the game. You know, a bit of a figurehead for Bradford, so I suppose in that sense you could argue that. But we're just focusing on ourselves, if I'm honest with you, Gabriel. As I've just answered in the previous questions there, I don't think we're anywhere near where we want to be yet. I can only speak for us, but I still feel there's a lot of gears left in us, and all we're focusing on every week is just looking at what we've done well and where we still need to improve. And you know, that's exactly what we'll be looking at on Sunday, is where do we feel we can still get better. You know, you'd be a fool not to be aware of your threats from your opposition, but at the same time you don't want to get too caught up on that, and you want to be the best version of what you can do forward. So we're going mainly off that sort of mantra, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, and it's got that incentive of potential silverware and obviously heading to Wembley Stadium. Just on a personal level, what would it mean to you to get the Knights to Wembley and into the 1895 Cup final?
It mean a lot, but listen, we're not even thinking about that yet, because if you do, that's when you end up getting burned. I don't think we've earned the right to think about that yet, because there's a tough 80 minutes in front of you on Sunday. Now, you know, obviously, depending how that goes on Sunday, that's when you can start worrying and asking them questions then. But ultimately, we've got to make sure that we just stay nice and level-headed and worry about what's in front of us on Sunday, which will be a very tough and motivated Bradford team. So, you know, we're definitely not going to show the disrespect that we're thinking far too much ahead, because if we do, we'll get burned. We're just living in the moment and focusing on what we need to do come Sunday.
Yeah. One thing I've seen your team get a lot of credit for on social media this past week is the recruitment.
Yeah.
Obviously, the recent addition of Toa Mata, I thought, no idea how to pronounce that, sorry.
Yeah, you go.
Him, obviously, Scott Galliano as well. How pleased have you been with that side of the game, with the recruitment?
Yeah, if they're good signings, I'll take all credit for them, and if they're bad, I'll let Clint take blame. But no, on a serious note, Clint's really on the ball with that sort of stuff, and he's constantly bringing me names, obviously asking me where he feels we can strengthen, or I feel we could strengthen. So I normally tell him what sort of player I'd like to see in what position, and within a few weeks he's got a pretty decent list of names to go after, and then he takes care of all that, you know, obviously with mine and his blessing. So really lucky to have that. It's probably different to what I had at my previous club, in terms of having an out-and-out recruitment manager there that takes care of business there. You're not having to stress on that, and you can focus just on what you get paid to do, which is the coaching side of it. So enjoying working in that sort of dynamic, if I'm honest with you. And yeah, he's picked up some gems currently, hasn't he, in Scott and Tower. So you know, we'll keep on looking if there's any more of that sort of mould.
Yeah. Just need to get quickly as well. Attingham, I know you've already sort of heard about, you mentioned that he's available. How much of a boost that for your team? Because obviously last season alone he was absolutely outstanding. So to have him back for a big game like this, it must be a fantastic fit. Yeah,
well, Atta were available last week, if I'm honest with you. It was just more me being a bit cautious with him. He could have gone back on in that London game again. It was just probably me over protecting him. He was filthy. He wasn't playing last week. running water, doing all that, so we were still around the lads. So as long as we get through training this week, I think both teams are going to be far off, having a decent amount of the top liners to pick from. So it's a welcome selection headache, and I'm sure Bradford will have Lawrence back, they'll have Donaldson back. Keys, I think he'll be back. So it's got all makings, as I said, for a really good semi-final.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to Sunday. This is really going to showcase this game. Two very, very strong sides in the Championship who have strong aspirations of making the step up in the IMG era to the Super League. Yeah, definitely.
As I said, I think both teams had fancied themselves as being there or thereabouts, and both teams are in a rich vein of form at this moment in time. So we've just got to focus on the here and now. It's one of them fixtures you probably look at, whether it's in a cup or league tie, and you're looking at the start of the year thinking that's going to be a good battle. And as a coach, these are the sort of games you want to be coaching in, and I know as a player, these are the sort of games you want to be playing in. So Bradford will travel well in numbers. Probably one of the best supported clubs outside Super League, and York always come out in numbers to support us. So two vocal sets of fans, that'll make for a cracking atmosphere. And as I've just said in that previous interview there, our job's to coach and play rugby league to the best of his ability. And if we can all nail his roles there, it's got all the makings to showcase rugby outside Super League, and what's waiting if opportunities do arise.
It is a semi-final. Normally semi-finals you associate with neutral venues because it's the 1895 Cup. You do have that added advantage of the LNER Community Stadium. What sort of price, what value do you place on this game being played at the LNER Community Stadium?
Well, from the obvious one, it's obviously the support. Naturally you tend to get bigger numbers for a home game, whoever you are in the league, don't you? So there's that one, but with Bradford not being far away, you're talking an hour in the car. I think they'll travel in great numbers too. So hopefully it'll be a massive crowd. But from our point of view, like most teams, you want to pride yourself on getting that consistency at home, don't you? And creating a bit of a fortress there. It's fair to say at the start of the year we definitely didn't do that with a couple of narrow losses, but. I don't know, you can make of it what you will, if I'm honest with you, mate. It's a game of knockout rugby for 80 minutes, and if we're playing away from home, I'd want to pride myself on his mentality of being able to go and do that away from home, but at the same time, you'd like to think that your home fans can be that extra nudge to get you over the line, don't you?
In a game of this magnitude and importance, how important is that sort of mental focus, that calmness, that patience from your side? And I kind of guess, Brian Noble will reiterate that to Bradford as well. Yeah,
you've just pretty much nailed it. It's just focusing on what you can control, which is your own performance. There's going to be a lot of outside noise, as there always is, and that's that's for people like yourself and the fans to speculate about. Our job's just to focus on what we can control, and that's what opposition's going to be put in front of you and how you can go about your business. So it's a great occasion. As a coach, you tend to drown out that noise. You live a pretty boring life and just look at video footage, focus on your own team, look at what team you're going to select, and then just go about nailing that 80 minutes. You've pretty much just said it there. It's about drowning out that outside noise and just controlling what you can control.
What are your expectations going into this one? What's the message to the team this week?
Oh, nailing the 80 minutes, just like exactly the same messages as Brian and Bradford are going to be saying. It's two teams that can both strike blows on one another, and it's about who's going to be able to to serve up the best performance on the day. We're under no illusions it's going to be a lot tougher game than the one we've previously just had, and the one that Bradford's previously just had, or we'd like to think anyhow. So it's got all the makings for a real tasty cup tie, and I'm just looking forward to it. These are the sort of games I want to coach in. You want to be tested, you want to be challenged, and we're looking forward to it.
I know you've covered Atta Hingano. Against Dunsley, Joe Brown, Connor Bailey were also rested. Is it fair to say those players that were rested are back in contention for this week?
Yeah, they'll be back in the squad, and as I said, I know Bradford will, they'll have their lads that probably haven't been playing as well in, Donaldson and Lawrence and things. So, without wanting to sound disrespectful to Hunslet, because they certainly offered us a challenge. We just felt it were an opportunity to give one or two lads a bit of a rotation out. Bish, obviously, we knew we'd have to miss this week, so the obvious choice would be to give Tower a run at full back and then give Brownie the week off to get over a few niggles that he's carried, and he's been playing some big minutes at full back. So they'll all be back in contention unless there's any hiccups at training throughout the week.
How important are those players with that experience, that leadership in a game like this? I'm probably highlighting Akumatai and Paul McShane and Jordan Thompson as well. Yeah,
listen, it's getting that balance right, isn't it? Because you want that fresh blood that's got that naivety about them, and then you also want them older, wiser heads that know exactly what it takes to win these sort of games. So I think both teams are blessed in that department, that they've got some real statesmen there that know what it takes, and they've also got some pretty good young up and comers that are naive enough not to worry about that sort of stuff and just go out and play the normal games. So I think the two pretty well balanced teams on paper in terms of that side of the game. So just really looking forward to Sunday, if I'm honest.
When you look at last season, when you took over to where York are now, how pleased are you with what you're building in North Yorkshire at the York Knights?
Yeah, I think there's some really, really good foundations there. I mean, what stood out for me straight away is there's obviously a state-of-the-art stadium there for rugby league anyhow. The training ground's second to none. All the facilities are there. It's an iconic UK city. One of the top tourist destinations in the UK, isn't it? With people worldwide wanting to come and check out the history of York. So it's got all the makings there for a successful club. And obviously, I was brought in to make sure that we build a team that's capable of moving to that next level. And I'd like to think we're moving in the right direction. I still think there's a lot more in us. Obviously, my job's to make sure that first team's fit and firing, and we're slowly getting there with that. Long term, we need to look at obviously different avenues. I think the ladies team's obviously setting precedent there. I think four on the bounce, I'm right in saying, and going for the fifth. So they're doing their job, and then there's a lot of youth players in York that would want to represent York if there's academies there and a pathway through to that first team. So that's obviously the next steps on the performance ladder to make sure that sort of system's in place, which I know Endo's on with. So just looking forward to carrying on that journey.